There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marci Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in.
Hello, my beautiful people. I know I say this every week that I'm excited, but I hope you can tell in my voice, I'm really excited to bring to you Susan Hart, because Susan and I we're at the tail end of the mastermind. We have been working together for the past 6 months, and it has been really, really amazing. So this doesn't seem like a podcast. This seems like Susan and I get to hang out where I'm not coaching. I mean, maybe I will here and there, but Susan and I have grown closer, and I'm excited for you guys to hear everything that she's learned from the accountability code, but also to share her goodness, because there's definitely a part of Susan that I could do well from trying to be like. So Susan, tell us all about you and tell everybody how you found me, I guess.
I'm not sure if I really remember. I am a mom to 4 kids, 2 adult kids and 2 teens. I joined the Lady Bosses of Utah group last probably September, and I just kept seeing posts that Marci had made, and people were commenting on how she had helped them, or she was offering to give them information or ideas. And so I think that's how I found you. I just kept seeing posts and thinking my business was in a place that we needed to either make a big change or quit altogether. And so I just decided to reach out and schedule a call with you. And then from there, it's history.
Yeah. That feeling of making a big change or closing the doors, it's like such a scary feeling. But I'm also like, I feel that way still sometimes, where I'm like, I guess I could just quit. I'll just go get a job as a bagger at the grocery store and I'll be fine. So running a business is not always easy, but I heard on a podcast yesterday, and I've been meaning to look up this quote because I'm sure I'll get it wrong, but they said Elon Musk said, if something matters enough to you, you'll do it even when the odds are not in your favor. So I feel like us taking the jump and trying the process can be such a beautiful thing. So let's do this. Tell people where you were at when we had that first call. Like, what was your business? What was your goal? And at that point in time, what was going through your head in terms of what that big change might entail?
My business was Mommy High Five, and we had been in business almost 8 years at that point. Mostly we were doing affiliate marketing, and it was all online. We had a website, and for a lot of those years, it was doing really great. And then we didn't pivot like we should have with social media and videos, and Google made some changes to algorithms, and we just were lost in the searches. And it was really discouraging because we'd put in a lot of work. But at that point, I think I just thought we needed to probably do some more videos, but I wasn't quite sure what to do next. So that's where I was when I found you.
Yeah. And I think our story together is so fascinating because we have like massively increased the tools in your tool belt, even to a point where we couldn't even predicted it 6 months ago. So one thing, listeners, when Susan was considering working with me, she was like, well, can you show me results of other people that you've worked with based on email lists and blogs? And I was like, no, I can't, because everybody is so different in the ways that we start to wake up and show up and the ways that businesses transform. So there was a little part of me that I was like, I wished that I had the exact results to get you to sign up. But I just was like, I cannot predict, but I can promise you I will help with holding you accountable, putting some strategies in place. And your tool belt is, you know, some tools we've used a lot and others we're like, well, that was great while it lasted. And, and that's it. So what would you say speeding ahead 6 months to where we are now, what's been like the biggest surprise in your transformation or even in the changes of your business?
I think probably me recognizing what needed to change wasn't necessarily the business itself, but how I was approaching things. And I think the accountability code has really transformed, and looking back, given me insight on things that I could have done that would have improved things dramatically for my business a lot sooner.
Yeah. It's funny to think about what if you asked me, well, what can you show me? And I'm like, well, you're just looking at your business wrong. You'd be like, I'm not working with you. I'll find somebody better. So I'm so glad that we have had the last 6 months because it's been really enjoyable for me. So, okay, a couple weeks ago, listeners, we talked about my clients creating their own personal code for accountability. And Susan was in my mastermind, but she also killed the last 8-week program. And so it was really cool to see not just her improvements in accountability based on the assessment, but also like creating a personal code. So, Susan, do you mind sharing your own personal code for accountability? And
Sure.
Listeners, I want you to know, like, everybody's going to have a different code, but this personal code that Susan is going to share it didn't just pop into her head. Like, this was a lot of work. It's a lot of trial and error to see how you adapt, how you adjust, how you approach things. So yeah, Susan, tell us your own personal code for accountability.
Okay. Reflection. Read, pray, and journal every morning. Evaluate at night. Humility. Take time before responding or reacting. Planning. Break down goals into small tasks without getting overwhelmed. Implementing. Use time blocking to keep on schedule. Commitment. Write down daily commitments and say no when needed. Feedback. Get rid of emotion and use feedback as fuel to improve.
I like that. I can get on board with a lot of those things. What would you say is your favorite step? The one that comes most easily to you?
Reflection, I think, comes most easily.
And your hardest one?
Probably planning.
I think that's pretty common. When people come to me, they know they think a lot, because their wheels are just turning, especially if you're in that place where we talked about where you're like, I either have to do a big change or quit. That's not a thought that easily passes. That takes it takes a toll on us, and it's pretty stressful. So, okay, let's talk about how your planning has developed into what you're doing now, how Mommy High Five has transitioned into something that's way more exciting and like up to date. Yeah.
Yes. So I've had some big aha moments in the last few years, and I really am feeling passionate about helping moms find their identity outside of motherhood. Instead of just getting lost, one person said to me, it's like feeling dead inside when you just have given everything you have to your kids. So I've started a Facebook group, I'm a Mom But, that is helping moms start to realize who they are and what they can do beyond motherhood.
I like that. I was telling Susan before the podcast started that now I finally have a Facebook group where it's like not about business for me, because I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups, but I use them all for marketing. But Susan's group has been a really great place to do exactly that, develop myself outside of motherhood. And I'm extending it to developing myself outside of business, because I can be pretty wrapped up in business growth all the time. So I'm a Mom But is a really fun group. And forever, it's just going to remind me. Susan came to the Lady Bosses and I gave her the microphone. I was like, tell everybody what your group is. And she said it fast. And she's like, I'm a Mom But. So I'm just going to always joke that I'm a Mom But. So, okay, and that group also is like something we came up with in the last couple of months. It's a very brand new group. So what has been something that you are excited about, or it's ignited something new with that group?
I think celebrating people's wins and the good things that they're doing. I found people are not very willing sometimes to give that information. And so I've started just shouting people out because I think that's an important part of being a woman, and moms don't get a lot of recognition. So I'm hoping that's something that people will get more comfortable doing.
Yes, I like that. And I'm also thinking back to the calls where we had where you were like, I don't know if I really want to start a Facebook group because it's a whole nother responsibility. And running a Facebook group is really challenging to monitor, to keep it active, to keep it valuable. And so that right there, I think is such a beautiful thing because that's a part of you that it wasn't able to be developed in your old business model, where it was blog posts and links. There really was no way to connect and say, hey, look at this person over here. She's doing amazing. So I think that's really cool.
Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcibarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in.
In your Facebook group, what else have you noticed in like the content people are sharing when it comes to developing their identity outside of motherhood? What kind of topics have popped up?
One of the interesting ones was connecting with adult children and how to keep that connection with them.
And how some people in the group like me have mama drama now. I didn't even know that was a thing. But yes, Susan's group has helped me with how should the relationship between adult children. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but that was me.
That's okay. We've talked about what people's dreams were when they were children and how those are impacted today. Are those still going on? We've talked about careers and what would you do if you started a new career today. It's been interesting to just watch people's responses and see what they're thinking about. And some of them, I think, haven't thought about those questions. And it's been really fun to watch their responses.
Yeah. What would you say is something that's been cultivated in you, like as a business owner? Because your mommy high five, it was there for 8 years. It's almost like this is a whole entire transformation, something different. How has that impacted you? Or what have you noticed about your own personal journey as you've applied it from this business model to here's this new thing that we're doing?
I think I'm really realizing how needed it is and how women are bonding over this idea that it's something that a lot of women are experiencing, whether they work full-time, if they're home full-time with their kids. I think this is a common thread among a lot of moms.
Yeah, I would agree. A couple weeks ago on the podcast, Ashley Romney and I talked about how people they don't want to just be heard, but they want to be adored for who they are. And that hit me in a new place because I was like, yeah, I want to be perfectly accepted how I am without needing to be like, I have to be this, I have to be that. Because I had 4 kids by the time I was 24, and I was this cute, fit, in shape, hot mom. And that was definitely a big part of my identity, something that I bragged about, something that people could brag about me for. Like, I think developing identity outside of motherhood has been really, really good. And I love that you are leading the way. You're practicing what you preach. That's what I love the most because you guys, listeners, I told Susan a while ago, I was like, I'm not really sure if you even like me yet. Like, I don't know if you think I'm funny, if you laugh at my jokes. Like, you're kind of a tough shell to crack. But I think and this is my own personal opinion, you might disagree with it, but I feel like your demeanor about your business and your attitude about your business has really changed. Like before it was very like, we got to figure this out because it's going to die. And now it's like, this is exciting and this is needed and this is filling my bucket and all of that. So yeah. Do you agree? Disagree?
I completely agree. I feel like it's been quite a huge transformation for me personally, as well as with my business. It's been really kind of therapeutic for me to connect with other women on these things that I think I've kind of held inside for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love that. And on the business side too, it's like we have a monetization plan. We have another tool belt with you using Amazon influencers. And guess what, guys? By the time you hear this podcast, Susan will have published her very own book on Amazon. And I just am really excited about that because the old model, and I'm just old, it's still relevant, but the old model of Mommy High Five was, straight affiliate marketing. And when we first talked, I was like, you don't have an email list, you don't have your own products. And so it's so cool to be like, yeah, I do. Now I do. I have my own products. So tell everybody more about the book that you created, and we will totally try and get everybody to go and buy it because I'm excited for it to come out. So tell me more about it.
Well, thanks. It's called Reclaiming Me, and it's a prompted journal for moms to help find personal identity. So it's over 100 questions that are meant to just help you think through, who was I before I was a mom? And who did I want to become? And who have I become? And who can I become moving forward? So it's got questions about your goals. It's got questions about your strengths and your weaknesses. And I'm hoping this will be a great place for women to kind of start to see who they are.
I love that. And I was just thinking that's like 100 posts for your group, right?
Yes.
Have you already thought of that? I'm sure you have. It's like,
yes,
okay, we can make these posts because in the group, when we first set it up, Susan and I spent some time putting together these different questions that are conversation starters and stuff. And so I just think it's really cool because just like you said, people want to talk about it. When's the last time we ever went into a business meeting and somebody's like, hey, what did you really want to be? Or like, what was your plan? Or you go to a play date and people just ask about your kids. They don't ask about you, So I really love that. In a previous podcast episode, Monica Miller, she talks about storytelling. One thing that she said was to make every moment a golden moment. And that if you feel like your story is not important enough to share, it's like you get to choose if it is. And I think that that's a really awesome underlying message in what you're doing too, is helping women and moms recognize like you are important. It doesn't matter if your kids are at home, if your kids are succeeding, if you hate your kids, if you're a stepmom, like you're important. I think that's really cool. So what would you say is probably the core message that you want women to feel on a regular basis when it comes to identifying their identity?
I want women to know that they have value. They themselves have value that's not tied to their kids or their husbands, that there is value there just in who you are yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I also love when kids are not allowed sometimes, Like, I go and do something. Well, me having all girls, I was always happy to bring all of them to the bridal showers and the baby showers and all of that. And even now, I formed a bunco group in my area with some friends. And sometimes my kids are like, can I come? And I'm like, no, you cannot come. So I think that's really awesome. So before we finish up this podcast, what would you say is the biggest benefit you've had from learning the accountability code? Because you definitely have mastered it in a way that's like above and beyond, I feel like. Before you answer, I will just say too that a lot of people learn the code enough to complete the task. And I feel like you've really embodied it and applied it to a lot of different areas. What was the most important thing you've learned from the accountability code? I feel like it's ingrained in you. It's not just an assignment that we complete.
For me, it's not just a business code, but it's a life code. And I'm excited to work on this with my kids because I think it would be really helpful for them to become successful and to be happier. And I think for my teens, it would help them to take some more responsibility and not complain so much about things that they're required to do.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And thank you for sharing. When my workbook first came out, I had a gentleman in my business group purchase 3 for his daughters, for each of his daughters. And he said, I want each of them to go through this. And they even pulled out the workbook for a family home evening one night. And I was like, that's so cool. And I tell my kids too that they have to get the workbook done before they leave the house or move out or whatever. So I'm just so grateful to have you as a friend and a client. I mean, friend first, because I feel like I won you over. You laugh at my jokes, but also like as a client, I feel like you were just so resilient. You took it seriously. You took advantage of all of it. And because of that, you got tons of results on not just the business level, but on the personal level. And that's really all I hope for, is if I can make an impact and, essentially teach you how to fish, it's like, you're going to be just fine. So I think that's really cool. Any other message you would like to share with the listeners while we have them?
That is a good question. I think that figuring out your own accountability code is huge. And it's one thing to read someone else's words, and it's another thing to have your own words that you have learned resonate with you and will continue to resonate with you to guide your decisions and your actions.
I love that. I love that so much. And I thank you for doing that, because I feel like that's really what accountability is. Like, you understand you and you're able to do what you need to do. And so, listeners, if you guys have not yet, dive in. I'm here. Whatever you need. If you need the book, you need the workbook, you need a call, you need the program, like, do it. And you guys can learn from Susan, and you guys should join the group. Join the group. I'm a mom, but, and we can hang out and talk more about this. But ultimately, I'm super grateful for you and your example. I have loved just how serious you have taken everything. But more importantly, I'm glad that there's a piece of you that exists now that didn't 6 months ago. And I think it's just a really beautiful thing. I really can't think of any better person to be the leader of this group about exploring your identity outside of motherhood, because you are 100% practicing what you preach. And I love that. So thank you. Thanks for being my friend and my client and my podcast guest.
Thank you. I have really felt like I've transformed a whole lot since meeting you, and I am really grateful for the accountability code and for everything that you have taught me so far. And I look forward to more.
So what do you think is next? What do you think is next for you? I know we can't really predict it based on the last 6 months, but what do you feel like is next?
Possibly some coaching for moms.
And you've already had a couple people interested in that without you saying anything.
Yes.
I think that's really, really cool. And now you'll have your journal that's like the basis of your program. You guys, what Susan just did right now, she just did something real dangerous. She just told me what she wants to do next. So we're gonna keep that on the radar. So, okay, listeners, you're gonna head to Amazon. You're gonna grab Susan's book. And then you're going to join her Facebook group, because it's so awesome. It's a good place, a nice, cozy place for now. It's growing, but it's a really good place to hang out. And then if you have not, get the audiobook of the accountability code and use Susan as an example of, she did a good job of listening to me, but she ultimately did what she needed to do, which was to develop her own means of being accountable to the messages on the inside and bringing them to life on the outside. So Susan, you're amazing. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.